Going to have you back. You're still watching Daybreak now. Time to look at what the papers are saying on their front pages. And we have Dr. Constance Ikoku here again with us.
Yes, good morning again, Kechi and Ndi. To look at the papers today with us, we have Emmanuel Azikian. He's a columnist with Vanguard newspaper and former political editor. Great to have you.
Being here. Good morning.
Hello there and welcome to the program. We'll begin with this day newspaper. CBN maintains monetary tightening regime, raises MPR further to 27.25%. At 79 UNGA, Tinubu seeks debt forgiveness for Nigeria, developing nations. And Jonathan, Edo Guber poll is proof technology can't solve our electoral challenges. I mean, former President Goodluck Jonathan says politicians with dirty minds will still manipulate processes, and he canvasses attitudinal change. This is coming from a man who has seen it. He's been in the thick of politics. He knows what he's saying, and he corroborates what former President Olusegun Obasanjo said recently, that some politicians simply need to be behind bars permanently. They have no place in a civil society. Emmanuel.
The admonition from President Jonathan is a welcome relief to the debate arising from the issues that we saw in the Edo governorship election last weekend. What President Jonathan has said as concerning the evil motive of political actors is not far-fetched. It's something we all feel. But even as he has said that, I want to say that besides the political actors, the umpire also needs to be brought into the fray. The umpire, I mean INEC. INEC needs to be put on the spot to defend the processes it shepherded at the last election. INEC needs to explain to the citizenry in fact, I would like to say, first of all, is the fact that the collation of results was shifted from designated positions to the headquarters of the commission. That is one of the issues that we saw arising from the Edo election last weekend. So, as President Jonathan has said, political actors and the Independent National Electoral Commission need to rechange, or their minds need to be washed for us to have a stable political system.
Indeed, a lot of people over the years spoke about the application of technology and how it will solve a lot of problems. What we are seeing is that people that are used to circumventing the rule and circumventing the process will always continue to do that. Are we stuck here, or is there a way out?
There's always a way. Well, over time, the talk has been, it is not the type of whether it's
the system,
democracy, yes, or what do you call it, unitary system of government, that's dictatorship. That's not the issue. The issue is the players, the unconscionable nature. Jonathan says, a Edo election has shown that technology is not the answer. Rather, a paradigm shift. We have leaders who think nothing at all about service. Leaders who are selfish. They're just concerned about themselves. And he talks about the fact that because of this attitude of quest for power at all costs, conflicts arise in African nations and within the nations itself. So it's a welcome development. That's why you see at times laws, I don't even know what, because laws are there, but they find a way.
You're at a loss for words.
To break the law.
Right.
He couldn't have put it better. We just hope that there will be a change of attitude, like he said.
Well, maybe consequences for the law, severe consequences for breaking the law might be helpful. Let's look at Punch newspaper. Subsidy, FG may spend 236 billion naira monthly on imported Dangote petrol. Banditry, Zamfara governor reports defense minister to NSA. That's interesting. Both of them come from the same region in the north. CBN banks sell $9 billion as Naira weakens to 1,607 Naira. Edo APC dismisses poll fraud. Police recover stolen beavers. And then UNGA 79, Tinubu seeks debt forgiveness for Nigeria. He was represented by the Vice President Kashim Shettima at the ongoing United Nations General Assembly meeting. The president asked world leaders to prioritize debt forgiveness for Nigeria and other developing nations. Emmanuel, there has to be another format to work with creditors and multilateral institutions. African countries, a blessed continent, always bogged down with crippling debt from these multilateral financial institutions. There have to be other ways. Sometimes these loans are ignorantly taken or recklessly taken, and then they turn around to ask for debt forgiveness. This is not sustainable.
To say that a number of, like the Nigerian debts to the multilateral and the other institutions, it's about 121 trillion naira, about $91 billion. And that's equivalent to about almost a 600,000 debt per capita upon every Nigerian. Every Nigerian seems to have a debt on his head of about 600,000 naira. Presently, the ones that are being born today. And we want to say, just as you have said, this is not sustainable. There has to be a new approach. One will welcome President Tinubu's initiative towards reducing our debt burden. But it is not just in asking, it is in the conduct of the administration and the others and the states too, who participate in this debt burden. The administration has to show that it is itself willing to cut cost. It is willing to live according to its resources. It's not just going to New York and UNGA asking for debt forgiveness. There has to be an initiative that, yes, I am ready to cut my cost. I am ready to use, just as he said, okay, it was the CBN governor saying yesterday, I think we should come to that Nigeria should live within its means. We should use locally made goods, locally made cars, locally made products. I think that is the way to go. If the world sees Nigeria living according to its means, I think there will be more sympathy and empathy towards the quest for debt forgiveness.
Good points. And Nkechi, let me come to you. Talking about not just speaking, giving that speech at the United Nations, putting in place a framework. During former President Olusegun Obasanjo's tenure, he did so much work to clean out that mountain of debt. It completely cleaned out the mess, and we turned a new leaf, and he gave the economy a breathing space. Right now, as we speak, I think we're back to square one.
I think one of the issues with going in and borrowing a lot is that when Nigeria borrows, or when some of these developing countries borrow, they don't have a plan to make that money that they've taken to now get it to a point where it brings revenue back to the country to be able to sustain the country, grow the country, and then pay back the loan. And I think Tinubu was not just, represented by the vice president, was not just talking about a free pass on the debt that Nigeria has. He was also pointing out to something sort of a systematic imbalance that he says that countries like Nigeria keep in a cycle of borrowing, obviously servicing debt without breathing room to actually grow. And obviously when you're paying debt of like 140 billion in debt servicing like some of our states did, there's no room for infrastructure to grow, healthcare, education. And he's tying this with the failings of multilateralism. He's saying, look, international system that's supposed to now be a safety net for nations like ours, Nigeria, is instead becoming a news. So I think that's one other angle that he was talking to. And he also went further to call for a seat for Nigeria on the UN Security Council, just basically raising that important question. is it time for Africa, or I think it's even more than time for Africa to be or have a more permanent voice in sort of global issues and global security matters? If we don't have the voice, we can't speak to what actually works for us. We just keep going in circles and circles, and it's just sort of a vicious cycle at this point.
All right, Nkechi. Also, we have to talk about local responsibility. Nobody forces you to take loans, and it also speaks to your economic management, you know, by extension. I mean, there is the geopolitics, of course. Yeah. There is the fact that you're a poor developing country, but you also have the power to make the decisions that affect you in a positive way. Yeah. So there's a lot in the mix there. Let's look at New Telegraph. Guber poll, Secondus accuses APC of plotting one-party state, which Secondus is a People's Democratic Party member, and he was former chairman of the party's National Working Committee. Secondus says the APC has destroyed and buried democracy. But it seems this destruction is happening across parties, whether it's the PDP, the APC. The politicians are unable to get it together, Emmanuel.
One would like to take it back to Secondus. You know, just about 15 or 20 years ago, his own party did say, the PDP did say that the PDP was going to rule Nigeria for 70 years. But Nigerians gave it back to him, and they brought up a new political culture, or a new political party at the center of government. Well, what he has said, but we need to interrogate it. Is APC really plotting for a one-party state? Every political party wants to dominate its environment. And APC, I think should not be blamed if its policies, if its plans, and if its programs are getting sympathy, are getting the votes, and getting the admiration of the polity. So I don't think it is wrong for a party to plot or to steer towards dominating the political atmosphere. But is APC doing this through the correct means? That is the issue that needs to be interrogated. If he's saying that arising from the elections in Edo State last weekend, independent observers have said that what happened in Edo was an aberration, especially, and I would like to point out, is the issue of coalition. The problem with our political system, culture, it seems to be a matter of coalition. Just 8 years ago, the same thing happened when the coalition process that brought in Governor Obaseki was aborted by some agents of state. So the same thing happened. So if APC is moving towards a one-party state through breaking down laws and procedures, that should be questioned.
Indeed, in a country as big and diverse as Nigeria, a multi-party system is essential. We cannot afford to have a one-party state.
You cannot afford to have a one-party state. Emmanuel is right. When you enter the field of play, you want to win. The question arises, how do you win? Do you obey the rules? Do you follow the laid-down procedures? That's where you bring in the question of, you're talking about templates used in Edo, will be used in Ondo, used in other states too. So the
Rivers,
template
Anambra,
thing,
yes.
is it a good, I talked about Gandhi saying we will win, we will, how did he say it? We will stop at nothing. So nothing, and I remember I reached the issue and I said, why don't you say we will use all legal means available to win the elections? That's more like it. But then, when you talk about Secondus talking, you bring in the question of, he talks about the beauty of opposing voices in democracy. Fantastic, like you just said. But then, where are the opposing voices? With his own party in disarray, fighting every day.
Right.
It's neither here nor there.
Right. Okay, let's look at the international headlines. Daily Graphic from Ghana. Presidential power under scrutiny. Make appointments transparent. Constitutional Committee recommends. The Ghana Constitution Review Committee says the appointment of the heads of independent constitutional bodies must be transparent. This ensures only qualified people apply, are vetted, interviewed, shortlisted, and occupy top positions. Nkechi, the sense here is that it will help manage the powers of the president as well as ensuring a level playing field for everyone.
I mean, the committee suggesting for a full vetting process, I think when you're appointing representatives, that's number one to be done, really. It's very important. And this conversation is relevant even at this time, not only in Ghana, but in other countries with the rise of civil society movements across the region. There's growing demand for more accountability, more transparency, and just more clear terms of process when it comes to picking people that will represent the good of any country. So this conversation is very, very relevant at this point.
Right. Let's look at the citizen from South Africa. Cyril woos Musk. Look at the picture there. It's a tiny picture, but you can see it. We have a photo of South African President Cyril Ramaphosa and Elon Musk, who is the owner of X and former X, which is former Twitter, and co-founder of Tesla Motors. So this meeting between both men happened in New York, with Cyril Ramaphosa trying to persuade Musk to come invest in South Africa. Now we know that Musk was born and raised in South Africa. He emigrated to Canada at the age of 18. Talk about attracting foreign direct investment. Ramaphosa was said to be leading a delegation, including his trade and industry minister in New York on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly meeting. They need that foreign investment, don't they, Emmanuel?
Just as he did say, Elon Musk was born and raised in South Africa, and which gives him a sort of a title as Africa's richest man. But the fact is, he has not really shown directed much of his wealth towards South Africa. And one reason for this, some people suspect, is the policy that was brought up after the end of apartheid. I think that is the Black Economic Empowerment, a program that is aimed towards empowering, giving more opportunities to blacks, Indians, and the colored as against whites. Musk himself is white, so I think that's one of the issues probably that was discussed when he met with President Cyril Ramaphosa yesterday. The meeting was on the sidelines of the ongoing UNGA, United Nations General Assembly. So hopefully his wealth is critically needed at this time that South Africa needs much more foreign investments. And one is hopeful that he will incline himself more towards Africa after this meeting.
Yeah,
Mark you, Starlink, I think, is one of the Starlink, which is already available in Nigeria and in about 7 other countries, is one of the investments that South Africa wants to attract.
Definitely. So they're discussing and talking about that. Let's look at the Daily Telegraph. Army ready to evacuate 10,000 Britons as Mid-East crisis worsens. I mean, we have been following the crisis in the Middle East, the new war, between Israel and Hezbollah from Lebanon. Now countries who are able to remove their people or remove their citizens from the country have started to do that following this ratcheting up of conflict between the two countries. Over 500 people killed, mostly innocent civilians, and each side continues the airstrike against each other. It's a dire situation, Emmanuel.
It is a dire situation, especially in the south of Lebanon, where Hezbollah, that's the party of God, seems to dominate itself, and from where they are shooting their missiles towards the north of Israel. So I think it's a good policy. Every administration, in fact, when you're talking about the British wanting to evacuate their people, I'm also thinking of Nigerians, because I do know that there are several Nigerians working as maids and such middle-level positions in Lebanon. One will also encourage the Nigerian authorities to direct themselves towards seeking the evacuation of many, many Nigerians in Lebanon.
When you look at the situation, in fact, when you watch what's been going on, you have droves and droves of Lebanese people running, packing up and leaving southern Lebanon, reaching Beirut and other parts of the country, and Israel continuing to give that warning that we will continue these strikes, so leave now because we are targeting Hezbollah. And part of the discussion is that the Hezbollah weapons and their operations are not in military barracks, they are within the population. So that's one of the reasons why they are striking civilian areas, and that is, affecting more women and children as we speak.
That is Israel there trying to support why they're killing civilians.
Right.
Which is on quarters is just not tenable. But then, while the Iranian president is calling on the world to stop what Israel is doing, calling on the world, Britain is being proactive. At the same time, they are saying they don't want this war to escalate. They're trying to call for a ceasefire and make sure that the ceasefire holds. They are going ahead. I think about 700 troops are gone there already, and are telling Britons, please don't travel to Lebanon because of what is happening there. It's a welcome development. And like Emmanuel says, you also have Nigerians there. One also hopes that the Nigerian government will think towards that direction. Be proactive, get these people out, think about them, just like Britain is doing. That's a wonderful thing to do.
Yeah, and Nkechi, you have the last word. We're having United Nations General Assembly meeting, and leaders are still unable to get together that ceasefire.
I think it's important for countries to evacuate their citizens when things like this are happening. I think this reminds me of the scenes that we saw from Kabul a few years ago. This situation could sort of mirror that. The IDF has now vowed to intensify bombing campaigns against Hezbollah. The recent strikes that we saw has killed over 550 people. And so it's not a surprise that the UK will come out and say, look, it's time to leave for our citizens, because when they now start, they're killing civilians, they're killing people from Lebanon. When people from other nations start dying, this just shows you the ripple effects that all this fighting has. It doesn't just stop in Lebanon where they're fighting, or in Ukraine, or in Gaza. It affects the whole nation, be it by people losing lives, supply chains being disrupted, and the likes.
Well, that's all we have for the paper review.
All right, thank you so much, Emmanuel Azikin and Dr. Constance Ikoku. I am Ndi Amunga. He wanted to say something there. I think I want to say thank you. The next is the morning show on Arise. Thanks for watching. Bye.
And you can get some more on our website at arise.tv. I am Nkechi Nana.